Welcome back. And the last spiritual practice we'll discuss is generosity. Now, typically when we think of generosity, we think of tithing 10% to the church. And that is definitely, one thing that, especially in this season of life, that if we can be good stewards of our finances and we have the ability to tithe faithfully with a cheerful heart, then it is definitely something we want to continue to do. I think when it comes to money, it's the only time in the Bible that God says, test me. Test me, and you'll see how I will open the floodgates of heaven for you. But generosity goes beyond money. We can be generous with our time. We can be generous with our resources, both financial and intellectual, even physical resources. And we can also be just generous with our, just generous in spirit. When in everything that we do, just being generous and kind, and always thinking about others before ourselves. Particularly in this season, I like to talk about just being generous with our time. I think that in this, specifically your standing season, as you're waiting for God to bring your husband back, waiting for God to deliver on a promise, you're believing for God to restore your marriage. This is a season where God will bring people into your life for either you to pour into or people to pour into you. And that is the most beautiful form of generosity, when we give ourselves and our time to others and we have really no expectations of anything in return. It could be someone that you talk to once. It could be someone that you talk to for years or for a season. God knows who we need in our lives, and we also want to be open to being there for other people. That is how you multiply the kingdom, is you begin to share your wisdom, your experience, your knowledge with others, because you may be one life stage ahead, or you may be one step ahead of them. So it's important in this season to give back, again, not only financially, but if you have the means and the resources, if that is a spiritual gift of yours, the spiritual gift of generosity, where you can pour into other ministries that are advocating and doing, God's work in the marriage ministry space specifically, then do so. But also being able to be generous with your time, with the things that you've walked through, with your testimony. Be willing to share your testimony with others. Like, that is a form of generosity, when we're able to not withhold what God has done in our lives and share it with the world, because at the end of the day, you are glorifying him. You're glorifying Jesus, because it is by the word, the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony that Satan was defeated. So, again, doesn't always need to be material or financial in this season. It can look different. But being very willing to give of ourselves. And especially when we think that we have nothing to give. I think that that's where we get put to the test, is when we think that we don't have anything to give, but God's actually calling us to call that person, to reach out to that person, to pray for that person. We can always do more. We can always be more, and because God is going to provide for us everything that we need to accomplish that. I think sometimes, of Jesus was constantly interrupted, and he was very generous with his time with people, because he saw that they were in need. They needed healing. They needed assurance. They needed something from him, and he was always interrupted. He was always willing to take his time with others. And so in this season, as you're going through it, don't be afraid of the interruptions. Don't be afraid of giving more of yourself to others, because that may be how God is calling you to be generous in this season, in the season of life. And so in the next video, we'll talk about just how all these spiritual practices, when they're put together, what are they actually producing in you? And so we'll dive into that. But I hope that, today, what you take away from this, that generosity does not have to be financial. It can be, but it can also be your time, your talents, and your tithes. So I'll see you in the next video.